Are you a fresher right out of college and wish to get into your first design job? And do you get disheartened seeing years of experience asked even for fresher roles by some companies? Or are you someone who believes that you are genuinely good for a particular role, but you don't have the required experience in terms of years? If the answers to these questions is a yes, you have come to the right place. In this video, I'm going to delve deep into understanding why companies do it and what you can perhaps do as a job seeker in such scenarios. See you right after the jingle. Awesome people, welcome to my channel. This is Sapta, and if you're here for the first time, this is the place where I help designers build and scale their career. If you're into it, a sub to the channel would be incredible. Imagine you want to eat an apple and you go to the supermarket to buy one. You find 30 different varieties of apples there. Now, we all like sweet apples, right? How would you know which apple is sweet? The most effective way is to take a bite of each apple and check it for yourself. But you can't do that. You can't do that because you're in a public store and the staff out there is not going to let you do it. Also, you don't have the time to eat and check every apple, do you? So what do? You rely on some symbols. In this case of apples, the symbols could be some sticker or some branding or the place where the apple was grown and so on. This is from Kashmir, that one's from Washington, New Zealand and so on. Maybe you buy those apples with stickers once and you find them sweet. You buy them again and then you find them sweet again. Over time, these symbols become your benchmark because you have had desirable experience with these in the past. Ever imagine why the stickered apples are usually sweet? It's because someone else has done the job of testing or perhaps growing them in a way to ensure that they are sweet so that you don't have to go through the hassle every single time. Now imagine it's not a supermarket. It's a huge open field with all the different varieties of apples are unpacked and mixed together. And you need to pick a sweet apple. How would you do it? Yes, now you're allowed to take a bite of each apple, but really? There are hundreds and thousands of apples and it's going to take you ages. So what do? You look for apples with stickers so that you have fewer numbers to deal with. Maybe you shortlist 10 or 20 of them, and now if you want, you may take a bite of each and check for yourself. This is exactly what happens in the world of hiring as well. As an aspirant, we often tend to see only one side of the story where we exist as an individual and we think, why the hell would you not want to spend 30 minutes and look into my work? I'm good. Tell me something, how would one believe you? There's no way one can get an understanding of your ability because your definition of goodness can be very different from my definition of goodness, can be very different from someone else's definition of goodness. And the reality is there are 100, perhaps 1,000 other people just like you who are claiming the same, and for a company it is impossible to spend that amount of time looking into each and everyone's work individually. And that's where the filter of experience come into the picture. So when a company asks for a certain years of experience before even speaking to you, they're essentially trying to quantify goodness in a unified scale, which isn't perfect, but fairly effective. They are merely relying on the validation of some other company or institution where you might have worked or studied. Oh, he has worked in this company for 2 years. He's probably good. She studied in that college. She must be great. And so on. The presence of a sticker doesn't necessarily mean that the apple will be sweet, and you can of course find sweet apples without stickers. But the probability of you finding a sweet apple in a heap of all stickered apples is much higher, right? In the same way, you can of course find good people who do not have certain years of experience, but the probability of finding someone really good from a pool of experienced people is much higher. You see, it's a game of numbers, a data-driven approach that companies and recruiters adopt to make the process of hiring faster and more effective. Now you might be thinking, that's fine Sapta, but what wrong did freshers do here? How on earth can they have 2 years of experience? That's so contradicting. You are right. Let's understand a little more here. You see, there's no standard industry-wide benchmark as to how much of experience in terms of years is okay or justified for a particular level. These are all defined by folks within a particular company based on the average years of experience of existing employees in that company or similar companies. It's a game of numbers again. When these numbers are defined, they're never an absolute number, but a range. That is, for every role or level, there's a lower end and an upper end that is defined. For example, for a senior designer, it could be 2 to 4 years. For a lead designer, 4 to 8 years. Architects, 8 to 10 years. And so on and so forth. Of course, don't go by the exact numbers, these are just examples. When they write these numbers in the requirement section for an opening, they usually mention the lower and write it like this. Minimum 4 years of experience for lead and so on. Now, things get really interesting in the case of the lowest level, or fresher level as we call it, the range of which is usually along the lines of 0 to 2 or 0 to 3 years. The lower end of which is obviously 0 years. Now imagine what happens when they take the lower end and write minimum 0 years of experience, or rather no experience needed. It essentially opens up the door to anyone and everyone who feels they are good in their own definitions. Which is okay, but it reopens the same problem which these companies had initially started with. That is, too many applicants, not enough time to filter manually. That's why instead of writing no experience needed, they end up writing some number which is not 0, usually 1 or 2 years. That's the reason. That's usually the only reason why you may see some companies asking for experience even for fresher roles. It's purely for their convenience. So here comes the bigger question. What do you do as an aspirant? Remember, no matter how they choose to filter, the skill and ability that they're looking for a particular role doesn't really change. It remains constant. Meaning, if some company wants you to be this good for a fresher role, that remains constant, no matter whether they choose to quantify it with 0, 1 or 2 years. Take advantage of that. That is, go ahead and apply even if a particular opening for a fresher role asks for certain years of experience that you don't have. Nobody will ever reject a good candidate just because they don't have the years of experience. This person is so good, she's going to bring so much of value to the company, but she doesn't have the 2 years of experience, let's reject her. This will never happen. No one is a fool to do it. In the past, if you ever got rejected for a role that asked for certain experience that you did not have, remember, you got rejected not for the lack of your experience. It must have been because the work that you had shared while applying, your portfolio perhaps, was not good enough for the role. Like I said, no one is a fool to reject a good candidate just because they don't have the experience. So look into your work first and make it better. If you want to know more about how to create a great portfolio, check out this video I have made and I will leave it linked in the description. Also, you need to be mindful about the role you're applying to. If you're a fresher right out of college and just because you saw this video, don't go ahead and apply for director of design that asks for an experience of 10 years. Sure, no one can stop you from doing it, but you'll most certainly get rejected. Also remember that just because you're a fresher doesn't have to mean that you have 0 experience. If you've done an internship, that counts as experience. If you've done some freelance gig, no matter how small it is, counts as experience. If you have done design-related work in your college for some fest or event, also technically counts as design experience. So use all these things to your benefit. So to sum up, don't let a number stop you from applying for a role if you're genuinely good. And to make sure you are good, do good work and create a great portfolio, and also look into your life. Maybe you already have some experience that you never thought would count as experience. All the best. I hope you learned something new in this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It motivates me to bring quality content for you every single time. This is Sapta. See you all in the next one.